So welcome back to another episode of my pain in the ass. It was a good pain in the ass, really. Can't complain. Alright, today is going to be putting a panel in the boot to cover the spare wheel and to make all this look pretty. Bring a panel up to kind of that line and around the battery. I'm just going to go down to good old Bunnings and grab some plywood or timber or something. Get some rough measurements so I don't know how much timber to buy. And pretty much, get started. Work out a couple of tolerances I need. I don't know if that's going to be in the way or not from the spare wheel. We'll see. I'm probably going to use a space saver regardless, so it's not going to take up a great deal of room in there. So I'm just going to measure up some points. I'd like to make this two individual pieces. Maybe this center piece here, I might put some hinges on it there and there so it can fold up and have access to the spare wheel. But we'll play around with it. But first of all, I got to go to Bunnings, buy some timber, mock it up. I'll be back. I was just about to go to Bunnings to get some wood, and then I realised that I've got a bit right here, and that's more than enough. Ooh, sorry, wall. That's more than enough to do what I need to do. So I'm just going to use that. Let's get to it. All right, before I do really anything in here, this panel needs to be readjusted because the fuel filler pipe kicks into it. It's not allowing it to compress against the wall. So pretty much, because the panel's going to come up to here, it's pretty much going to come to about that height, and from that height under is where the fuel pipe is hitting. So I'm literally just going to cut a segment out of this, and that'll fit flush against the wall, and the fuel filler pipe will just be poking out of it here, and then the panel, the the boot cover panel thing will actually sit nice and flush against there. You'll see what I mean. I probably didn't explain it very well. I got to undo this and get it off. Okay, so here's my interior panel. The fuel filler pipe interrupts up to about this height. So pretty much I just need to kind of cut a shape out of this to allow this panel to sit flush against the wall. And it's going to look something like, I could just make it dead flat actually. I might just do that, because that way I still have the screw holes here and here. And the panel, the body panel that sits in the back, will still cover all that, no problem at all. So I might just actually slice and dice that all the way across. That'll give me plenty of room, and the bottom doesn't matter because it's going to be covered. Yeah, it's a bit much easier to work with when I have to refold this down as well. So I've got to cut the vinyl maybe 3 centimeters lower, then cut the timber, and then fold the vinyl back underneath. Alright, let's see if I got this relatively more fitting. So that's going to sit like so. Done. And my gap is just perfect for the filler bottle. So the panel is going to come up here and cover that completely. And that fits nicely up there. I can probably put my trim piece back on now. That's there, and that'll hold it in place and I won't have any issues. So I'll do that now as well. And that is in. So now we can continue working and measuring what I need in here for the wood. Awesome. So I've got that cut up, my first cut. Let's see how close. I'm not expecting it to be perfect, but ow, that hurt. Right on my elbow. But we'll see how well she fits in place, and I've got to get it up on that lip there. So I've got to put you guys down for a minute. Alright, so she fits pretty well on first cut. That's not bad. We've got that little arch there that pushes up against the side. It completely covers the fuel area. It runs along here, which is great. Down the back panel, plenty of room for the spare wheel, etc, etc. So now that that's done, I'll mark off the left side. And that's going to be a bitch because I've got to cut around the battery and get all that sorted, including the wheel archy piece. And then this final bit at the back, I'll do that last with the last bit of timber I have. But so far that fits half okay, I'm pretty happy with it. Got to measure up this side now. Enjoy. Just sort of show you a bit more detail. So that tucks in nicely to that corner, that's flush against the side, and that's got that corner in it, and then all the way around the back panel. So she fits okay, which I'm happy with. So now I'm just measuring up this complicated side of the timber bit with the battery. We'll see how I go with my measurements. Hopefully I don't muff it up. So this is how my brain works. It's a bit of a mess, but it does get the job done, so let's do it. Let's, what is all this about? I don't know what this is about. Anyway, let's see how I went. Pretty close. Pretty damn close. So what's it hitting us? Okay, so this end here is fine. That's got a gap in it because, oh, actually that will. Okay, so that there has to be chopped down just a little bit. I left it a bit bigger on my cutting because you can always take some off. You can't add more. Good thing I did, because this just needs to be opened up. Oh, sorry, my camera works horrible today. That needs to be opened up a little bit bigger. Here, I might just do this piece here. Actually, I'll leave that because that has to go up a little bit. So I'll cut this one down just another centimetre. I'll get a little bit of length off that side, and then that should move up with that and with that, and should be in place. But that's actually pretty good for my first cut. It'll be snug and it will fit. Alrighty, so I just cut it up. You didn't have to see it, so it's pretty boring. And that, now this is going to fall down because there's nothing underneath it when it actually fits. Oh wow, the pressure of the other board is holding it in place. Look at that! I've got a little tiny cutout for the fuse. That is in place with the battery. That follows the curvature of the, whatever that thing's called. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. That's very good, actually. I don't mind that there's a little gap there. I'm not fussed about that at all. That's sweet. Well, now I've got to do that piece. Now I've got to remember that when I'm finished doing all these panels, I have to work out a way. I've got to put mounts underneath there somehow so that they all stay flush and at the same level. That's going to be fun. I'll work out how to do that after I'm finished with the boards. But let's do this bit here now. I am going to be a little bit short here and there, just because the width of the board I have is not quite enough. But again, I'm not overly fussed. It's a small little area that, I don't know, like I said, I don't really care. Plenty of room under there as well for the spare wheel. Normal wiring and stuff. I'm still going to be putting, what do you call it, sound deadening on the bottom of that, so it'll help shut everything up. So let's do this panel and try and get it to sit on there and there. Alright, let's see if I'm lucky enough to flip this as well. Not fussed about that. Oh, look at this. That's flush with there, so the seat won't impact with that. So like I said, I've got a little gap there. There will be a little gap there when this board decides to work, stay in place for longer than a minute and a half. Hang on, put you down. Okay, because there's no supports in here, that's a pain to just kind of wedge in place to stay there temporarily, but it fits. So that's kind of flush with that. Again, like I said, little gaps here and here. I don't care. I really don't care at this point. That battery is in place. That board is flush with the seat, so that is also very good. So now what I might do is just tidy up all the edges, and my next main step is putting some panels underneath these boards to actually hold them up in place. So, you know, I've got areas along the edges of the wheel arch or the suspension arches, the covers that actually hold the plates up, but along the rear of the car there's nothing to hold them up. And because this segment here is also going to be cut again, alright, I'm going to cut this. I'm going to put some hinges there and there, so this piece will actually fold up to get to the spare wheel. Because all that's happening, I need to work out the way I'm going to bracket all this together to make it nice and solid. I might even somehow join these together if it's not too hard. Actually, no, I better not do that because I need to get this piece out for the battery access. Anyway, I'll work on it. So that's cut up. Step one complete. I could make these a little bit neater as well. You know, I could just bring that cut down here and kind of make it look a bit flusher, but I could also just add a little bit of timber in there. Actually, that's a better idea. That's a very good idea. I'm just going to cut a little quarter piece of timber in there with a round edge and get that in that piece. I'll like nail it in or glue it in or something, and I'll do the same here, and that way the corners, my OCD won't kick in. I won't lose my brain over it. Awesome, let's do the bottom of it. I'm just looking at the boot here for my supports. I'm thinking of actually attaching the supports onto the pieces of timber that I've actually cut up. So when you lift the piece of timber up, there'll be legs on it, or maybe just a panel on it that actually comes up with the board. That way I don't have to edit anything in the boot here. So you just place it in and it'll be, it'll just sit where it needs to sit nicely. But before I do that, I don't want them clunking around. So I'm going to put my sound deadening in that I've got here at the moment. Just to kind of cushion things up a bit. I'm going to put a piece in here, but I'm also going to leave access for the fuelie bit. And I'm also just going to stick down over these wires so they're not moving around. I'll put a piece up along there and along there. So I'm going to do that now, and then I can get back to working on the lengths of the timber braces or legs on my timber panels that I've cut out. So when I place them in, they're just going to sit where they sit, and they should be flush. And then I can just edit the length of the legs independently to make sure the height, you know, sits flush. This piece here I don't have to worry about because it's fully supported by that rail there and that rail there. So that one there is finished, I don't have to touch it. But this side, the middle piece, and this side will need to be sorted out. And then the panel that I'm lifting up here, I may need to put like extra little tabs underneath this panel and this panel poking out so that it sits down flush with the rest of the panel. I can do that just with some timber screws and a little bit of a little piece of steel just to keep it sitting flat. Anyway, I'm going to get to it. I'm going to put some sound deadening in here and then continue on with the timber panels. I accidentally threw a screw out onto the driveway, so lucky I found that. Would have got someone's tire. Alright, got my stuff here. I'm just going to start slicing it up and putting pieces where they need to go. Alrighty, ta-da! Bit of a mess. It's easy to clean up. So, that's in place, which is good. That'll help make everything a little bit more, I don't know, just nicer in the boot here once it's all together. Now, back to making the supports for the planks of wood. I need a drink. Alright, so there we go, got some legs on that board there. Now we'll see how and if it fits. The answer is yes. It does fit, and it does stay flush. Hells yeah. So that's good. It's nice in place, and because it's sitting on these nice soft foamy bits, there's not going to be any rattles or knocks or anything. That board there is already on the little edges, so that doesn't matter. And that can just be wedged into place with the board in here. So now I think it's going to be cutting this section here. That's my flippy flappy panel. And then doing the same thing with the boards on that side. So I've got to go cut this timber again and continue. Ta-da! Number 2. Oops. Don't know what I'm doing with my camera, sorry. Ta-da! She's in. So that sits nice in there, nice and snug. Supports doing their job. Supports doing their job. That one there doesn't need supports. Now the fun part is putting some tabs here and here for my closing plate. So as that lid closes down, it needs something to sit on. I'm going to put them here and here. I'm just going to make them out of steel with some short wood screws to hold them in place. I think that'll work pretty well. I don't have my hinges yet. but that's not a problem. Right, let's do this. My tabs for the thing. Alrighty, so now to screw in my tabs to hold my panel up. Alright, so my little things are in place. I'm going to put them in the car and see if they hold up my board, which, I mean, I know they will. That's a given. Man, as if I build something that doesn't work. Jeez. Get on the panel. So they're all in place. Get this sucker in here, like so. Ta-da! Ta-da! Da-da-da-da-da-da. Now I've got to put a handle on that to lift it up, make it easy. But that's pretty much what's going to happen with this. That can go back to... I'm going to have the hinges flex back a total of 180 degrees, so that'll be able to hinge all the way back on the seats when this is open, when I'm wanting access to it. So that will fold back down and shut in place. Hells yeah. So I still have to take these little brackets that I put in here off, because I've got to vinyl it, and then once the vinyl's back on, I'll put the brackets back on, including I'll put the hinges on once the vinyl's back on it. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think it's going to work well. I mean, I'm imagining it black and vinyl and looking awesome and stuff right now. It just looks like Hobo's house. But I'm happy with how all this is flush. I was a little bit worried about not getting it right, but it seems to have worked. Let's go to Spotlight and find some vinyl. Oh, I'm just having another think about this. When this panel gets lifted up, there's going to be a lot of weight pushing down here and here on this back panel. So I think I actually need to put some supports here and here on the bottom of this panel here, so it'll take the weight of the door when it lifts up. So I better quickly get that done as well. And there we have it. Supports there and there. So when the weight of that door is up, it'll firmly push down on those two supports, and the timber board won't fall all over the place and it'll hold the door up. So now it's time to start covering these boards in the vinyl I just bought from Spotlight. I got navy blue. In the video it looks much lighter than what it actually is in person. It's pretty dark navy blue, but it looks very light. And I got some hinges. 2 packs, $2. Winning. For the handle to lift up the panel for access to the spare wheel, I'm going to use another hinge, just a smaller one. And I'm just going to screw one end of the hinge in, and the other bit will just flip and flop around. So when I want to open it up, I just lift the folded piece of hinge and lift it up. It's going to work as a handle, so that'll work fine. So let's get to it. Alright, so I've cleaned up my super awesome workbench, cleaned it up, aka flipped it upside down. So the vinyl's going to go on here, like that. I'll turn it upside down so that the backside of the vinyl is facing me. Then I'll just template out with my pen pieces, cut it out, fold it up, glue it on. Happy days. Alright, because of phone battery power, that didn't record. But anyway, check it out, it's in place. Yeah, it's navy blue, whatever, but it's in the boot, no one is ever going to see it. But that's actually pretty neat. And it covers everything really well. I've just got the battery sticking out there. I might put a cover over it. So last but not least, got to put some hinges on it. They're going to go there, and you're going to see the hinges, and I don't mind that, because again, it's just the boot. So let's put them on. Get rid of some of the dust. Ta-da! Boot done. Now if I want to put carpet over this, I very well may, just to make it all carpety and to match that. But as far as having all this in place is concerned, I'm pretty happy. I do have a little latch that I installed here as my super duper lifter thingamabob. So now I have access to the spare wheel, to the fuel pump, and all that kind of good stuff, and that just folds down. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Sorted. Oh, loving it. Those little tiny bits of steel there are holding up the timber door. The hinges are doing their job quite well. Done skis. So anyways, that's all I'm going to do. My battery's nearly dead and I've been kind of rushing it to try and get it on video, but I'm really chuffed with that. With the boot down, you're not even going to notice what colour it is. From the back, you won't even tell, but that's super neat. I'm super happy with it. There you go. Adios, amigos.